Welcome to the Founder's Mind. This is your host, Adam Muchler. On this episode, I have Angelic Williams, founder and CEO of MyUmbrella. Seeing a crucial need for a social app beyond dating in the LGBTQ community, Angelic set out to build a platform to fill the void. In this episode, you'll learn a bit about Angelic and her journey, the importance of creating space for those who don't have one, and following your gut. Listen in as Angelic discusses creating real community with MyUmbrella. Angelic, welcome to the Founder's Mind.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on.
Excited to be here.
I think the last time we spoke, which was kind of our introductory conversation, I was walking the streets of New York, and I'm trying to recall some of your story, but I think a great place to start would be, in your own words, what company are you building right now, and a little bit about your background.
So the company that I'm building, it's called MyUmbrella. It's a social networking platform for the LGBT community. So it's not a dating app. It is what Facebook originally kind of set out to do, which was connect people, build community, have a safe place. Unfortunately, social media has grown to the point where it's, depending on the platform, the message is different. So, Facebook, it's political, it's a marketplace, it's where you share your engagement photos and a whole host of other things. And Instagram is about living your best life, not your real life. And Snapchat, I don't really know because I'm too old to understand how Snapchat
Yeah, I haven't even touched Snapchat.
So I've had it twice. I've tried it. I don't understand it. And I deleted it. So what we're trying to do is a little bit different and actually create real connection, build real community for people that don't have a safe outlet to do so otherwise.
So I think, one, I love that. And especially in the context of 2018, this idea of building community for any community is so important. How do you see that? How do you see building community, and how do you see that differentiator in sort of the existing outlets and MyUmbrella?
Mm-hmm. So our big differentiator, what I've heard from our users, or what I see a lot of them say, is they'll start a post with, "I'm sorry to write all of this, but I don't have anywhere else to go." And it's almost like this admission of guilt, but then it's also realization that, no, I can't actually do this here. It's okay. And so what separates us is that when you post something about your orientation or identity or something that happened to you or something you remembered, everyone in your entire life is not seeing this. It's not your mom, it's not your boss, it's not your coworker, it's not your best friend from second grade. It's just people that actually get what you're talking about. And so people have already started, having conversations of, I've been there, I've been in this road, here's what I did. And so it's really refreshing to see that. But further, we're really trying to be a new entry point into the LGBT community for people. Because right now what exists is you're either trying to date or hook up with someone, or you're trying to party. And that really only affects a finite group of people. So, there are a lot of people under the age of 21. There's a lot of people that are in relationships. There's a lot of people that just don't like to go out for those reasons and want to do other activities that don't have anywhere else to go, don't have a way to make friends. And so we see our platform as bridging that gap.
Where did this idea come from? How did it arise in you, and how did it become like a real thing? It's an app. Right. It's out there. People can download it, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit, it's October. So about July, August of 2016, kind of a perfect storm of things happened. One was that the job that I previously had, made good money doing it, but was painfully unhappy and bored out of my mind with it. Two, my life was super straight, and I thought, what happened? Like, I need to gay up my life. Like, in my mind, that's what I said. I need to make more LGBT friends because I don't have that circle of people that I would like to have. And the third was that my younger cousin was killed really tragically, kind of no one really saw it coming. We saw him one day and he was gone the next.
Wow.
Quite literally. And so that really caused me to think, what am I doing with my life?
Sure.
And then last but certainly not least, the election cycle was happening. And Mike Pence was named the nominee for vice president. And he's one of the few non-Californian politicians that I know. And not for a good reason. He's famous in Indiana for, anti-LGBT laws and all these different things and bathroom bills and the like. And I thought to myself, if this man becomes vice president, like, I don't even have time to think about the president right now. Like, this man is dangerous and he knows what he's doing. So what does my life look like if he's in power? And all of these things kind of came up to me. And I realized that at the time I was 27. And so what 27-year-old me understood that, 15-year-old closeted me did not was, I'm not the only one that thinks this.
Sure.
I can't be the only one that's terrified right now. Like, there has to be someone else, at least one other person that's thinking this. And so I went online, I went looking for a community where I could find people to talk about these feelings that I had. And I really didn't find that much. I found, like I said, I found dating apps. I found, different parties to go to, or, like angry drinking parties about like the election, or
drinking and crying parties.
Yeah, drinking and crying. Yeah, and very politically charged conversations, but nothing of what I was looking for. And I remember thinking at the time, like, this is 2016. We have technology. Why is this not a thing? I don't understand how this thing isn't a thing. And so I guess this is a very entrepreneurial thing to say, but at the time I thought, I should just make this. I should just make this. I don't know how, but I know how to design. I have a background in design and I know how to run a business. So the rest I'll just figure out. I'll just make it work. I don't know how, but I'll make it work. And so that's kind of how all of that coalesced into what is now MyUmbrella.
The perfect storm, in your words.
Yeah. Yes, perfect storm of events.
I'm sure it hasn't been a smooth sailing since, at least exclusively. I know that building something from scratch takes a lot of energy and effort. What was the first? So you have this, obviously you have this series of events, in some tragic, personally, and some tragic at a community or societal level. What was that tipping point from, oh, I can make this, I can do this, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to? Like, what was one of the first steps or the first couple steps that you took to go from idea to something tangible?
Yeah, so the first thing I did, I called up a friend of mine who she codes on the side, and I said, what am I doing? Like, I need to talk to you. Does this make sense? And she said, yeah, I mean, this seems doable. Anything that you've ever wanted to do, you've done, whether people believe you or not. So if you want me to tell you, do it, this is me telling you do it. But don't complain when it gets hard. That was the first thing that I did. After that, I sat down, started thinking about different features, started mocking up some screens and the design tools that I knew how to use. So, just Illustrator, Photoshopping things together, thinking about how it would work. But even then, it was still one of those, and I hope that I'm never misquoted on what I'm about to say. Even then, it was a feeling of, I don't have to do this. I don't have to. I could continue my life and it would be okay. I don't have to do this necessarily.
Yeah.
And then it was coupled with, I don't even necessarily want to do this. Like, I don't even have time in my regular life for my day to day.
Sure.
How am I supposed to find time for this other thing?
And you were still working full time?
I was still working my full time. Yeah. And so it was those two thoughts, but then it was, no, I need to do this. Like I don't know why, but I need to do this. And that was kind of what led me along, um, for about on and off for about 9 months or so until September of 2017. And I was still at my full-time job, hated it even more than I did a year ago. Um,
It
that
wasn't
story
getting
didn't,
better. It wasn't getting
yeah,
better as
that's,
you were imagining this other
yeah, no,
thing.
that story never got any better. It just stayed horrible. Um, and I guess the tipping point was a women in real estate group that I was a part of. They had a leadership breakfast, and it was about finding your perfect work. And I went to this talk, and it was with this life coach, who then ended up becoming my life coach. But she talked about her career and how she went to Stanford and, made a lot of money in real estate, and then, made six figures and above and beyond, and lost everything down to $1.97 in her name. And then rebuilt it. And now she's came back. And when she was talking about it and talking about the work that she did, the work that she does, and how much she loves it and how fulfilling it is, I'm sitting there thinking, this is what I want. Like, this feeling that she's talking about, like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And my job is not it. But when I was working on this other hobby that I was or wasn't sure about, I had that feeling. I had that feeling of fulfillment when I was working on it.
Mm.
Like, once I stopped complaining and actually started working on it, it became hyper fulfilling. And
Hyper fulfilling. I like that.
And that was the tipping point. It's like a drug you can't get enough of. It was just like, oh my God, like, this is what people say when they say this is their calling or they love what they do. I just thought that was something that you said to make yourself feel better about your life. But I'm like, no, this can really exist. And yeah, that feeling of hyper fulfillment is something that I hadn't felt in a long time, and something I desperately wanted to get back. So that, I guess, shifted the needle. And more than anything, I spent money.
You spent money,
When I spent money on something, I'm committed.
Yeah.
Because I don't like separating with my dollars.
Yeah.
So I hired a coder and all these different things, and at this point, we're too far in. Like, I can't back out.
I think that's, this idea, and you brought it up, and it sounds like through some work with your life coach, but like that you can pursue things that can completely light you on fire in a good way, and that it can be part of your life's greatest work. Maybe this is
Right.
your greatest work. Maybe this is the beginning. Maybe it's one of the things you do. But it takes a lot of energy to even go outside of what has been mapped out for you. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think that there are things in your life, and I can't speak to your experience, but I can speak to not having that experience. Like, I never had to come out to anyone. So there was never this experience where, like, I had to go outside of the world that was constructed for me,
Right.
And they're just thinking about making that leap, or, finding that fulfillment in your work, not just your life. You're going against a current, that says, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, we have this whole roadmap here for you that everyone
Right.
says is the right one. And by
Right.
everyone, I mean, I'm generalizing, and I got air quotes there. But yeah, I think it's just a good point, that there are these things out there that you can do that really bring you more energy than you thought. What's a piece of advice that you've received in your founder journey that you found really impactful?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Let me think about it for a second. A piece of advice that was really, really good. You know, actually, whenever I think of the best piece of advice I ever got, it's actually the first piece of advice I've gotten in my professional career, which I think about a lot on this founder journey. And it's from one of my first supervisors, and they did it like a check-in after you were there for a few months, and He says, you're doing good. Like all your work is fine. But I don't want you to be afraid to make mistakes because mistakes are like cheese. Do you know what I mean? And I looked at him like, no, I don't know what you mean that mistakes are like cheese. That makes no sense. What are you saying to me? And he goes, well, think about this. You're making a sandwich. You're going to put some cheese on it. For whatever reason, you drop the cheese on the floor. Now, you could pick it up, put it in the trash can, and it's done. You acknowledge the mistake, and it's over. Or you can pick up the rug, slide the cheese under the rug, and put the rug back down and hope that no one noticed. And for a few days, no one will know. But eventually, that cheese will start to rot. And everyone's going to start trying to figure out where is the smell coming from until someone will lift up the rug, find the cheese, and you now have to admit that you were the one that dropped the cheese and covered it up. So he goes, eventually, people will forget about the cheese, but they will never forget the smell. He goes, so that is why mistakes are like cheese.
That's amazing.
And I mean, it was, this was 6-7 years ago that I heard this, and I thought this was so applicable. And clearly, because I remember it, and that's what I remember is, for me as a founder, that it's important to acknowledge my mistakes and to not try and cover them up, because it's really only going to come back horribly. And actually, I did get a great piece of advice that's coupled with this on my founder journey. This wonderful woman, Shelley Archambault, she's told me, as CEO, it's not just your job to tell people what to do. It's also your job to tell them how to feel. And I don't mean that you need to go and tell them you need to be happy or you need to be excited. I mean that the company is a reflection of you. So if every time something minute goes wrong and you're flying off the handle, that is the tone you're setting for your employees, for your company, and it's going to show. If you're very measured, or you celebrate the victories, or if you're micromanaging, if you're kind of lax, if you let them be free a little bit, that's going to reflect on the culture, on the company, on the people, on the product, because eventually it all trickles out. And between the cheese and the letting people know how to feel, those are the things that I bring up. And I tell people on my team, some that I've known for a long time, some that I've just met very recently. And one, she's just wonderful, great big ball of energy. And she always tells me, I just don't want to let you down. I want to make you proud, and I want to do the app justice. And I always tell her, you're here because I trust you. Mm-hmm. If I didn't trust you with my baby, I wouldn't have you here. Like, don't ever worry about making a mistake, because for better or for worse, it's my fault. That's it. Everything that goes wrong is my fault. Everything that goes right is the collective effort of the team. It's just like in sports, when you win the Super Bowl, the quarterback gets way too much praise. And a good quarterback knows to say they wouldn't be there without their teammates. And when they lose, the quarterback gets way too much blame. And they carry the burden, because it is the most visible position.
Yeah.
And that's your job as a CEO to do those things.
I coach a high school soccer team in the fall, and the season just ended, and we had to switch goalies mid-season because one of our goalies got injured their hand. Mm-hmm. And the guy that came in felt a lot of pressure. And I always tell my goalies, but I reminded this goalie a lot, was if there's a good shot on goal, if there is a goal that is scored, it's because there have been systemic failures on other parts of the field that have given the opposing team the opportunity to score.
Right.
So if the ball goes in, obviously the goalie is sort of that last line of defense, mm-hmm. but it didn't start with that right. Breakdown did not start with them.
Right. Exactly.
And I think, your analogy of the quarterback kind of resonates with that. And back to, your perspective, which is that, you're there to hold the space and create the space so that people can make mistakes, whether it's their
Right.
fault or someone else's fault, but just give them space to operate. Because to your first analogy about baseball, like the greatest hitters make contact or get on base or score 30% of the time.
Right.
The other percent of the time, they're out.
Right. Yeah. You're not going to pull Mike Trout because he struck out twice. No, you're going to let him go back up there
Yeah,
because he's your guy.
that's great.
So,
I haven't really thought about it from the baseball side, which I think it's a great analogy, and also baseball is an interesting sport because there's so many data points
yes.
that we can look at. We can really look at things very sort of in a meaningful way, which is interesting. Um, I'm sure there's more than one, but who's a founder that you admire and why?
Oh man, there's definitely more than one. Um, it has to be just one, right?
I mean, if someone's coming to mind, if there's more than one,
Yeah.
I won't cut you off.
Yeah. No. A founder I admire actually is a guy by the name of Brandon Anderson, and he's a tech nonprofit, and it's for reporting your experience with the police.
He's based in
And
DC.
yes, yes, he just came to Oakland actually.
Oh
So
no.
he'll be back, but they're sorry, all the best people come west.
Anyways,
Yeah, he came to Oakland because they're launching their beta here. So I think he's here for like 9 months or something. I don't
cool.
know. But I admire Brandon a lot because he connects with what he's doing.
Hmm.
He has his company's called Rahim AI, and it's based on, he lost his partner to police violence in a random traffic stop, and he's someone that was able to channel their devastation and pain into something that could really affect change in the way that there's so much in the news about police brutality and lack of trust between citizens and their police force and racial profiling, and I see this as something that needs to be out there. And when he came here, I told him, like, I'm not sure how it works in DC, but we're gonna have to adjust the language here because if you're in Oakland, there's a deep divide. So, like, helping the police force is probably not the language you want to use. Like, you really want to improve the relationship between the citizens and the users. But I've seen him talk plenty of times on it, and he's just an amazing guy and works incredibly hard. Does a lot of thankless founder-esque work. And those are the founders that I really, connect with because it's not just a business opportunity. It's not just a gap in the market.
Yeah.
There's a reason and there's a purpose and there's a drive to fulfill whatever it is. It's compelling you to do this. But he's just a wonderful guy, incredibly positive. And,
Yeah.
I always tell him if I was in your position, I would just be in the house, like taking surveys for money and eating ice cream because I would not be outside. I would not be a productive human, but you are doing something so amazing.
It's pretty
So
it's pretty incredible. We actually
yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought him up. Because we were on a panel together at the beginning of this year of 2018.
Okay.
We were at Wonder Women Tech talking about, how can men show up for women, and how are they, and maybe where we've failed and where we might succeed. And I
Right.
totally agree. Brandon's story and listening to him speak, it's unbelievable.
Hmm.
And we won't dig into it deeply here, but look him up. That's all I'll say
Yeah.
is look him up.
Yeah.
See what he's up to. Um, and I'll have to shoot him a quick note, be like, you came up
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, I actually should text him because he's like, we should get lunch, and I just haven't had a chance to do
Yeah.
it yet.
No,
But
that's
yeah,
great.
no, he's a great guy.
Cool. Well, that's a really, really good example. I appreciate that. Um, we've got a couple more minutes. So we're gonna do two more questions. The
Okay.
second to last one is, what's something you learned recently that blew your mind? So it's
Okay.
doesn't have to be startup related, can be anything.
Yeah. Okay. What's something that blew my mind recently? Oh man. Um, this is really, really random,
I
but
love it.
I remember seeing this and thinking, what? So you know those big black nail files, you file your nail down
Yeah,
with, and
yeah, yeah.
it's like kind of sparkly, like kind of black sandpaper-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently found out that apparently you can peel the layers back after it gets like dulled down, and there's like a brand new strip. And I was like, what?
That's wild.
like no way. Like no freaking way.
That's
Like
amazing.
I was like, that would make more sense as to why they're so thick. Like, but yeah, that blew my mind.
I
That
love
was
that.
like just this complete, just mind blowing
Okay, so
moment of life.
how long have you been familiar or used those? I think they're called emery boards, right? Like how long have you used those, like the file? Like, have
Uh,
you, like, years, a couple years, your whole
God,
life?
I man, I don't even know. Like, I mean, I just resulted to buying the metal one because I just didn't understand like
Okay,
why I would have this. But we grew up with one in our house, and I just feel like I kept seeing that thing, and
that's
it like
amazing.
never worked because it was so dull. And then I'd like have to beg my mom to like get a new one,
That's
and then,
amazing.
yeah.
You can peel
So
back the layers.
yeah, that was pretty wild.
Uh,
Also, for your edification, you can also right click on Google Maps and measure distance. Just so you know.
I don't know if I knew
Yes.
that. I have a Google Maps thing up here. Right click,
Yeah. Zoom in, right click.
measure distance.
Yep. And you can click point to point, and you can like make a whole square, and then you right click again to say like clear measurement. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
It was fantastic. Just
I'm doing it right now. I'm like,
yeah.
my eyes are glazing over, and I'm just measured the length of a block,
Right?
3,334 feet. That's a couple blocks, but still.
Yeah, it's crazy. The first time I learned that, I was like, what?
I love I love hearing in the response to that question. Sometimes there are like existential things, or like, like really big, sort of like, I had no idea this was going on. But then there's also things to what you just brought up, which I love equally, which is like, there's this really sort of like little detail in my life that I had no idea existed, like peeling back, like the
Right.
layers, or like measuring distance in Google, where it's like, I use these things all the time,
Right.
and I had no idea that fill in the blank.
Exactly.
You could do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. It's insane.
Um, Angelique, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a blast getting to know more about you and the work that you've done. And I'm really excited to see where My Umbrella goes. The last question is, where can people find you? Do you want them to follow you? Do you want them to follow your company? How do people interact? How do they learn and follow along?
So how people can find us online, it's myumbrella.co, not .com, .co. On social media, you follow us at MyUmbrellaHQ, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You'll find us there. App Store, Play Store, MyUmbrellaHQ all together, no spaces. If you want to follow me personally, I'm not that interesting. But my personal handles are North of Oblivion,
North
which
of Oblivion.
which reminds me that no matter how down I am in life, I am above death, and that is a win for me. So
That is the truth.
yeah, so that's my memory. But I promise you, I don't post anything interesting. Just nothing really that interesting.
Hard sell on your personal handles and following you there. But
Yeah, I'm pretty boring. I have to warn you.
check out My Umbrella HQ or myumbrella.co.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, Angelique.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Founder's Mind. Check back this week to catch a tangent episode with Angelique, where we dive a bit deeper into the value of not knowing and breaking through the facade of crushing it. To make sure you don't miss any awesome wisdom from guests and stay up to date on the most recent episodes of the show, be sure to visit thefoundersmind.com. You can also follow along on social at thefoundersmind. Last but not least, thank you to Roy Matz for the music on this show and his dope editing skills that make The Founder's Mind possible. Until next time, take care.
In a world going through all of this insanity, and try to bring new ideas, make them a reality. Illuminate in the thoughts, make it a priority to implement what you learn. What you get is what you be. In a world full of noise, hard to find that clarity to try to lead subtly, never full of vanity, and try to change something small or try to change humanity. Power forward through the dark, founder's mind is what you see. Founder's mind is what you see.